The question, did he do it? I don't think anybody could have predicted this, but somehow the answer seems to be no.
Crossing on the wires right now, Sean Diddy Combs is found not guilty on the racketeering conspiracy charge in this federal case. The verdict on the 4 remaining counts are not read yet.
No fucking way.
Here's another alert. Combs found not guilty in
No
the sex
fucking
trafficking
way.
of his former girlfriend, Cassie Ventura. Here's
Bro.
another one. Combs found, okay, so this is count 2 now. Combs found guilty of transportation to engage in prostitution. Combs found...
Which is like, that's nothing. Oh, driving a hoe around? Fuck, I've done that.
Guilty of sex trafficking, and that applies to the girlfriend who went by the pseudonym as the name Jane.
Okay.
And CB, I'll bring you in. I just want to read one more alert here because some of this seems to be a bit of a duplicate as it's coming in. Combs found guilty of transportation to engage in prostitution with the former girlfriend who I just mentioned as Jane. So those are 5 quick alerts that just came up on the Reuters wire. And we are waiting more from inside the courtroom as we speak.
Whoever his lawyer is, I feel like that guy can quadruple his rate and still have that shit be on sale. Like, that dude is like, that's some fucking, what's that dude? That guy's name? Oh my God. That's, yeah, no, that's not even Saul Goodman. That's like fucking Ace. This is some Ace Attorney shit.
Does that line up, CB, with what you have down there at court?
Oh, this is nuts.
Bill, so what I'm looking at, count 1 through 5, the only count that I see that Diddy has been found guilty.
Wait. Who is, so Johnny Cochran? No way that's Diddy's lawyer. No way. It's not. It was. I think this is from back in the day. Like, this photo was taken in 1994, okay? He dead? Then it's probably not him. That's probably not him.
Count 3, transportation to engage in prostitution as it pertains to Diddy's ex-girlfriend and accuser, Cassie Ventura. The other 4 counts I am seeing, excuse me, let me backpedal a little bit, you guys. This is all breaking in. We're dealing with rolling thunder out here. So I'm seeing Diddy has been found guilty on 2 counts. The transportation to engage in prostitution counts.
I don't care about that.
It's the only counts he has been found guilty of are the transportation to engage in prostitution. And I want to say that comes with a possible prison sentence of 10 years in prison, and we're working to learn more. But there is a crowd gathered here outside the courtroom. I'm not sure who is among this crowd, but Bill and Dana, I know you've been watching the trial closely, and you know there are a slew of Diddy supporters out here who have come every single day. It looks like...
I cannot believe that they were actually... I cannot believe he might actually walk. This is insane that all of these guys are right. Holy fuck.
What appears to be one of Diddy's supporters is out here in front of the courthouse explaining to cameras perhaps why he believes his someone he supports was vindicated of the most serious charge, racketeering conspiracy. There are hundreds of cameras, and we're waiting to get some more color from inside the courtroom.
You got it.
But we know that jurors came back with this ultimatum today.
CB, I'll let you go for the moment so you can gather some more news down there. I just want to repeat the main headline, and that is this: Sean Diddy Combs acquitted of sex trafficking and racketeering. The racketeering is the most serious charge. That was count 1. That would have put him behind bars for the rest of his life. Not guilty on that charge. So to recap, of the 5 counts, 3 not guilty, Dana, and 2 guilty in Manhattan federal court.
This is monumental, Elizabeth. We've been covering this case for 2 months, really for more than a year at this point in time. We are seeing about the actual verdict here. And just for the I want to understand, count one was the most serious charge, carrying up to a life sentence. He has been found not guilty of racketeering conspiracy RICO. Not guilty. He's also been found not guilty of sex trafficking of Cassandra Ventura. She testified for days. We're also learning that he's been found guilty of the transportation to engage in prostitution count involving Cassie Ventura. He has been found not guilty of sex trafficking of Jane, who is the girlfriend that he was dating as well, and guilty.
You just can't stand seeing a black man in the White House? I thought we just got done watching that one video about how Trump was the first black president. What do you mean? Yeah, what are you talking about?
Of the transportation to engage in prostitution. Now, Elizabeth,
you dumb?
This is very, very significant. We had an inkling yesterday when there was a hung jury on the initial RICO charge, the most serious, that there might be an actual acquittal there or a hung jury.
Oh my God.
The prosecutors, talk to me more broadly here, because the Prostitution Acts, people thought it was kind of a low-hanging fruit.
Why you always,
he was found guilty of those, but not sex trafficking of Cassie.
This is the best possible outcome for the defense. This is
just say
what, of course they wanted a full acquittal.
Just say it's a Diddy W. Just say it's a Diddy W. It obviously is. You might not like it, but it is.
The most serious charges he has been acquitted on. The jury did not believe most of their story, or even if they believed most of their story, it did not line up with those charges. So,
and by the way, on that point, let's talk a little bit about that, because there was an inkling for those people who had been in the courtroom, including ourselves, who had been watching the testimony. Remember what they were using as a defense to counter the sex trafficking. It was free will. They were talking about free will, and they were suggesting, while the prosecution said any bait and switch or manipulation to coerce these women by fraud or threat or otherwise to engage in these so-called freak-offs, that force, that cloud of force and threat and violence that had hung over the head of Cassie Ventura was enough to suggest that she never could develop the free will to say no. And when it came to Jane, the idea of manipulating her to travel to places like New York under the pretenses of quality time and shopping, only to then engage in freak-offs, was enough of manipulation. Well, the defense, was very clear. They kept saying free will. These are grown women. It seems that the jurors, maybe looking at text messages or testimony, agreed with that sentiment.
Absolutely, and we were just talking about some of those text messages that came in, and let's dig into them a little bit deeper. As I said, nothing about this is black and white. I have covered many high-profile sex crimes cases with famous defendants, and the concept of consent can be very hard for a jury to understand, especially when you have text messages that say, I want to do this freak-off. Now, again, these women on the stand said that they texted those things to simply placate Sean Combs because they were scared of him. Because especially in Cassie Ventura's case, remember, this is a woman.
How can you make a decision based off of that? Some girl says yes, but then later on she says she was scared. So now it was rape? So at what point? Like, that's insane.
Who was physically beaten. Our team got that on
this doesn't work with anything else.
Video, and the jury saw that numerous times.
Crazy. The jury is leaving the courtroom right now. Their job is done.
That's consent,
right now. Civic duty done. They have been there for 7 weeks, and they just left the courtroom.
This is, I mean, really, it is a stunning turn of events. It's a
You have to prove coercion by force. Sounds like they failed to.
From yesterday when they were deadlocked, but also remember, this is the beginning of day 3. This jury reached a verdict in under 15 hours after hearing 2 months of testimony.
15 hours.
Really a stunning outcome. Again, I would anticipate that the defense is quite happy right now, but Sean Combs will still be serving prison time.
Yes.
These are still 2 charges that each carry 10 years. Now, Laura, I actually want to hear, as a former federal prosecutor,
I don't know how long
you
though.
may not want to make this prediction, but How much of that time do you anticipate that he would serve? What do you think that the judge may sentence him at, with each of these charges carrying 10 years each?
Still facing 20
question.
years.
First, let me just dab the
Not gonna
sweat
go to
off
jail
my
for
brow,
20
because
years.
let me tell you something.
Very
I was
unlikely.
sprinting from the court trying to get here for this moment because I was so eager to understand what the actual verdict would be that I'm literally doing an affair to remember sprint through the streets of Manhattan trying.
When underage people were involved, they can't give consent. There wasn't enough proof for that. That's disappointing. I'm disappointed too. I think that he's a bad actor. I do. But he got off.
To get here, and on the way, people were asking, is there a verdict? Through the streets of Manhattan. That's how people have been viewing this particular case. And here's the thing. After almost 8 weeks, SDNY has a success rate of conviction of over 90%. It's actually over, I think, 95%. So think.
This guy wait.
The resources that are being used in this case, more than what? It was 6 prosecutors, including Maureen Comey, a top prosecutor in the SDNY who handled Ghislaine Maxwell and other infamous cases as well. For almost 8 weeks, the devotion of resources and time and energy and cost resulting in prostitution-related charges.
And he
now,
got
that
away?
might be a black eye if people are thinking about
Holy
the rate
shit.
of conviction, but they believed in their case.
Oh my
and now they'll
God.
go forward knowing that the jury, who they must respect, has found only this one. But here's the thing, 10 years is possible, but for a first-time offender of any crime like this, it could be as little as 2 years in prison as well. Now, they could run consecutively,
2
meaning
years in
back
jail.
to back. But he knows right now the possibility of life without
I blame the
the rest of
prosecutors
his
for
life
doing a
is
bad
no
job.
longer on the table. Prostitution, though, is, and I have to say, I'm a little surprised in a way. Although this was low-hanging fruit to have the prostitution, because, again, there was almost a guffaw heard around the world when they said, no, I didn't pay these male escorts for sex, I paid them for their time. And the defense said, well, that's what it was, and they weren't always paid if they didn't perform. But they didn't actually call a single male escort who traveled across state lines.
Man.
They called 2 who were in this area. And who
So this guy rolled a nat 20, and then the prosecution rolled a 1. And this is crazy.
Also talked about their sexual
God.
performance. But did that surprise you that really this came down to the documents alone?
It came down to the documents, and I think that was obviously incredibly effective for the jury, because again, when they are seeing flight records that show said sex worker went from Atlanta to New York, that's pretty clear cut and dry that you are traveling across state lines. So it did come down to that evidence, to the documents, because you are right, Laura.
They already
not
served
only
8
did
months.
they not
Yeah,
call
maybe.
any male sex workers who traveled across state lines, but also none of these sex workers called themselves prostitutes. So that is you bring up a really good.
Hold up. How if you a sex worker, how are you not a prostitute? What is this? What are we doing here? What are we doing? Why are we doing this?
Point that these male escorts on the stand, they were not saying, yes, now in hindsight, I realize that I was paid as a prostitute. So that wasn't cut and dry, but that documentation, the bank statements, the hotel records, and also the flight records clearly is what compelled the jury to convict him on those 2 charges.
I think we're hearing something right now that they're asking.
All this case proved is that if you're rich, you get away with anything. I bet this will make people start taking justice in their own hands more often. If people start killing other people randomly, the only thing you're going to lose is your own rights. What do you think? All the people in power are just going to say, oh my God, we're so afraid now. We're going to have to do what you want? No, they're just going to add in more Patriot Act, mass surveillance bullshit until you don't even have any privacy. That's not what's going to happen. Like you're so naive to think that, like, you really think that these massively powerful Machiavellian psychopath murderer rapists are just going to say, oh no, they're killing us. Let's just stop what we're doing. And do you think his career is over after this in court? No, I don't think so. I really don't. I think that especially now that he basically got, he got away with it in a lot of cases, right? I'll be right back. I can use the bathroom. So no, I don't think his career is over at all. Diddy drops to his knees and bends over after hearing the verdict. Oh my God. Diddy supporters showering each other with baby oil outside the courthouse. Oh my God. Let me make sure this is this problematic? No, No, we can't see that. Of like, you know, how did this guy get off? I have no idea.
Ladies, you need the booze. You need some water.
For watering plants?
No, I don't know if guys have noticed this. Like, a lot of ladies drink water at parties. They just, you know, so if you don't have what they need, they're gonna leave.
Right.
Gotta keep them there.
Right.
You need locks on the doors.
Okay, this is sounding kind of dangerous now.
It's a little kinky, but
yeah.
That's crazy.